Hi, I'm Alexandra with Traveler's Tale, where it is a mermaid's guide to conquering your bucket list. But instead of reviewing a bucket list, I am going to be instead talking about a question I get a lot. What is the not so great travel stories that you have? And this is probably my worst, scariest travel story I have. Please enjoy. Now, just a quick disclaimer. This was a time when I got surgery in my ear in Vietnam. I will be showing pictures of my ear, not of the actual surgery, but just before and after, and they're a little grim. So I just have to warn you, if you don't like gross medical pictures, this is not the video for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Let's get started. So this story starts in Hoi An, Vietnam. Now, I was traveling with a group there, and Hoi An itself is so beautiful. It's so unique, and I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. But I had the opportunity to go scuba diving on a nearby island, which I'm a mermaid, so I obviously jumped at the opportunity. So during this dive, our plan was to go drift diving around an island. And during the dive, full disclaimer, I did get separated from my group because I was looking at a clownfish and I looked up and everyone was just gone. So I ended up ascending, inflating my little emergency beacon, and I ended up waiting there for about 45 minutes. It was okay though, like I knew I was gonna get rescued, but I was just kind of chilling in the water, and there was sea lice in the water, so I was just kind of getting eaten, but it was okay. It was chill, it was fine, it was a good dive, it was fine. So after I was rescued, we ended up going to this private little island thing. We had a really great lunch, we lounged on the beach, and everything was great. Or so I thought. But the thing is that about a year and a half ago, I got my helix pierced, which is the little piece of skin on top of your ear, and I got it pierced twice. And it was about a year and a half ago. I thought it was healed, but during the dive, or maybe when I was stranded there in the water, getting eaten by sea lice, I don't know if something got inside of it, but about a day later, it was so infected, I cannot even tell you. I won't go into the gory, gross details, but you can see from the photo that it was red, it was inflamed, my ear was huge. So I contacted the piercer on the bus. We were actually on our way to Saigon or Ho Chi Minh, and I was talking to her, and she was like, take it out, wash your hands, go to the hospital. And I'm freaking out because that's the worst thing that a traveler ever wants to hear when they're traveling, is that you need medical attention. So I'm in the airport, literally just trying to get it out of my ear. It's bleeding, and then someone actually went and grabbed somebody, and they didn't have a medical facility there. They just kind of had a medical kit, like a first aid kit, and yeah, it was bleeding. We couldn't get it out of my ear. They said to go straight to the emergency room when I got to Ho Chi Minh, and I'm pretty sure I cried the entire flight there. It was terrible. So as I said, I was traveling with a tour group, and luckily the tour guide who spoke Vietnamese was lucky, or I was fortunate enough for him to be able to take me to the ER as soon as we got to our hostel in Ho Chi Minh. And once we got there, they told me that all the doctors take Sundays off except for emergency. And this wasn't life-threatening, so I didn't qualify for an emergency. They did tell us of one hospital that was open, and it was a local hospital. So we ended up going there. We waited about 3 hours, and when I got in, I mean, it was so stressful. Like, the power went out, there were people laying in the hallways. Once I did see a doctor, it was in a kind of like a communal doctor room, and then they told me that it was so bad that I needed to stay in the hospital, this local hospital, for about a week on a antibiotic IV drip. So at this point, the time zones kind of corresponded so that I could actually talk to my insurance, traveler's insurance, do it, and also my own doctor, and both of them discouraged me from staying in the hospital, but did say that I needed to get it removed. So I ended up going back to the hostel, like in the caves. I was still like crying all throughout the caves, just so stressed out about it. But the next day I went back to the original hospital that I went to, and finally found someone who was willing to look at it and specialized in ears. I got some x-rays, as you can see here, because they wanted to make sure that the back of the earring was still attached, because by this time I'd waited so long, or I couldn't find medical attention, so it was so long before I actually found someone that was willing to help me, that my ear had actually enveloped the back of the earring. So I was swelling so much that the back of the earring was just gone, and it was just tender and red and stuff was coming out of it, and it was so gross. So once they saw the x-rays, they told me that it was going to need to be surgically removed. My heart literally just skipped a little beat, but I was like, you know what, it's fine. It'll take 5 minutes, they'll numb it up, they'll get it out, it'll be done. Wrong. And here's where it gets a little grim. So again, if you're squeamish in any way, please turn off this video. I laid on the operating table, I could see all the tools, and the doctor came in and another nurse, like about 2 more nurses came in. And one of the nurses immediately came up. She put her forearm on my forehead and pushed my head into the table, and the other nurse was kind of just assisting the doctor. And she cut open my ear. Like, totally, fully just cut down this part of my ear. No anesthesia, no numbing, nothing, absolutely nothing. And when I tell you that this was so traumatic, I mean, I was just so stunned that it was happening. And every time I cried or I was like, please stop, she would just push further on my head. And I know it was necessary because like they needed to get the earring out, and they were just doing the best that they could, but oh my gosh, it was so terrible. And they were just like constantly speaking Vietnamese to each other, and then every once in a while, they would stop and they would look at me and go, "You push through pain, you're so strong." And I thought it would be done in about 5 to 15 minutes. Wrong. It was about 45 minutes before I just went silent. Like, I literally couldn't cry anymore. My poor tour guide was outside, and he told me later, he was like, I had to take a walk because it was so hard to listen to you just cry in there. Maybe I'm such a baby, I don't know, but it was terrible. And she finally, afterwards, she like showed me the bloodied earring. Thanks. And she was like, oh yeah, there it is. And I said, where's the other one? And she was like, well, the other one's not infected. And I was like, get it out of my ear. I don't want any more earrings. Get it out. But at this point, my ear was so swollen and so angry. I mean, it was swollen and angry before, so cutting into that swollen tissue was not fun anyway, but now it's extra swollen because she just did the other one. So she had to cut the other one out too. So she cut both of them out. By the time it was done, it was probably about an hour. And then she finally, one of the nurses left, and I was like, where is she going? She goes, oh, she's gonna go get sutures, anesthesia for the sutures. For all of you who don't know, that means that she cut this part of my ear open so bad to get this earring out that I need stitches, and now I'm gonna get anesthesia and numbing for the stitches. I can't even feel my ear at this point, so these are pictures that the doctor took at the end of the surgery and my earrings on the gauze after it was all done. And then at the end of it, I said, hey, I'm in a lot of pain. Literally like the back of my hair was like drenched with blood. And it's not a vascular area, but it was pretty rough. And she goes, oh my gosh, yes, of course. And she gave me a Tylenol or an acetaminophen. Like what I take for a headache. So that's what I had to go through. She gave me some prescriptions after that, except we couldn't find one of them. Again, I'm so grateful for the guide who was able to talk to the pharmacist in Vietnamese, but we couldn't get one of the antibiotics, so we ended up having to go to a different part of town to get them at a seedier place. Overall, it just wasn't a good day. And it doesn't stop from there. So the next day, she put sticky gauze, so there's non-stick gauze and then normal gauze. She put normal gauze on my ear, which means as the blood dried on my stitches and in my ear, it dried with the blood. So we ended up crossing into Cambodia the next day. It was about a 16-hour journey, and this was a day after I had the surgery. So that was a great ride, but it was okay. But when we got to the hostel, as soon as we crossed over into Cambodia, as I said, I could not get the gauze out of my ear. So again, my poor guide, who deserves an award at this point, took an hour to talk to the doctor and to try to get it and cut it off of my ear. The girl I was sharing a room with actually had a stomach bug, so she was puking during the entirety of this. Afterwards, I was so traumatized that I called my mom and I was like, Mom, this is unreal. Like, I cannot believe that this is happening. And after about 20 minutes, she talked me down. It was all good. And I went back in, I laid in my bed, and no joke, a cockroach ran across my leg on my bed. So a couple days later, I kept it clean. We ended up going to Korong, and it was actually really, really chill. I got this like this tree house right on the beach for a few days, and that was honestly a great way to kind of try to heal it again. But then it was time to take the stitches out. So I went to a local Cambodian hospital. They didn't have any sterile tools, so the guy needed to like bite to get the sterile tools. So I left for a little bit, I came back, I became friends with the nurse. She eventually was like, oh, do you want some snacks from my village? I was like, yeah, sure. And she just gave me a tarantula. Standard. I mean, at this point, it was kind of like, am I on a TV show? And someone's gonna pop out and be like, we gotcha. Like with everything that happened with this. But yeah, so he took the stitches out. Everything was good. I sent it back to the doctor. And that was pretty much it. She did tell me then that I couldn't get it wet for 3 months, but I was still traveling for the next 3 months. So there are pictures of me at these gorgeous, beautiful locations all around Southeast Asia and Fiji and Australia, where I'm just in a shower cap because I couldn't get it wet for 3 months. And I do have to say, I really, really, really do appreciate the doctor in Vietnam, because she actually gave me her phone number and she stayed in contact with me for about a month and a half after the procedure and answered all of my questions. So I am so, so grateful that I did receive like good quality medical care, even though it was a little traumatic and it could have been a lot worse. And just a disclaimer, Vietnam and Cambodia are seriously amazing places to travel. This was just a very bad series of unfortunate events, but I would 10 out of 10 still recommend going to Vietnam. I actually love Vietnam a lot more than I thought I would. It has so many hidden gems and is amazing. Just tips and tricks to learn from me. Even if you don't think you need traveler's insurance, get traveler's insurance. I was the first person on planet Earth to skimp because I was like, I don't need it. No, trust me, if you are in this situation, it was so nice to have doctors that I could talk to with my insurance, my actual doctor. They were giving me advice, they were helping me through all the payments, even though it wasn't actually that expensive, like weirdly not expensive in Vietnam, so that was really cool. But yeah, so always get traveler's insurance, always, always, always. The second thing is always try to keep in touch with the insurance and your local doctor and the doctor who is doing the procedure or treating you. Just because it's nice to have multiple opinions from different sources telling you what you should do. So there it is, the craziest and scariest thing that has ever happened to me while traveling. But on the bright side, it really did teach me that I can handle anything that is thrown in my way in a foreign country. Obviously, if something happens in a foreign country, especially medically wise, it can get quite stressful and scary, but I think it is important to know that even though it does suck at that moment, it really does make you a stronger traveler, and it kind of does boost your confidence that you can really handle anything that happens to you. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and if you want more bucket list and reviews or funny stories, ones that are a lot funnier than this one, definitely don't forget to like and subscribe so that I can keep giving you mermaid bucket list content. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a good day.